Hello, welcome. It's so good to be back here with another video. I think this video feels like a cohesive kind of salad. I'll be giving a diet review, low calorie version, skim milk version of the recently concluded MGI All Stars competition. Then I'll be branching off of that to rehash my sentiments about judging and voting in beauty pageants. I am Ola Jola, singer-songwriter based in Lagos, Nigeria. And my last few videos have been a mix of pageant commentary, music industry commentary, and a book review somewhere in there. This video feels like a kind of first and is a kind of first because I will be speaking about an international competition beyond Nigerian representation. But before I go on, I must say thank you for clicking on this video and spending the next few minutes with me. I'm thankful for your likes, your views, your comments on my last few videos. I do not take it for granted. I'm particularly grateful because your kindness lets YouTube know that something beautiful and valuable is happening here. Also, thank you for subscribing. It ensures that you do not miss out on any of my future updates. Now, let's get right into it. MGI All Stars. Of course, as soon as the official announcement was posted late last year that the organization would be hosting the inaugural edition this year, there was so much excitement and anticipation. That buzz kept building up as more queens were revealed, and I think it reached a high when big names like Stephanie Gutierrez and Gazini Ganados were announced. The African delegates also took their time with the reveal. At the end of the day, we had Ghana's Faith Maria Porter and Makiba Kaya, Cote d'Ivoire's Marie-Emmanuelle Diamala, and Zambia's Dumaya Leonde. Nigeria didn't have any delegates, even though there were rumors of at least two at some point. And I can think of multiple reasons why that was the case. Anyways, I think Africa was healthily represented performance wise. Some were a lot more consistent than others. Regardless, they all did beautiful. And congratulations are in order for Faith Maria Porter for passing in flying colors and excelling. Being the judges' favorite to win was such an accomplishment. Yes, the vote had other plans. Regardless, I'm thankful that due to the organization's efforts on transparency, we have that information. Top 5 was pretty much expected. Vanessa and Gazini had been in the conversation as the queens to beat since their unveiling as delegates. Faith just recently secured a controversial fourth runner-up placement at MGI 2025, and a lot of pageant fans even believe that she deserved to win. And looking back at that now, it could pass as a kind of foreshadowing of what happened a few weeks after at MU, another deserving, worthy African delegate being relegated to the fourth runner position yet again. Hong and her team came prepared to be the drama and a major topic of conversation during the competition. Her fashion game had been on another level since she landed in Thailand. She also smartly applied tips and tricks to boost her performances, and thanks to the support of her team and her fans, they also showed up for her in the voting. It wasn't shocking when she made the top 5 or the top 3. There were hardly any surprises in the top 18 or top 10. I know a lot of fans would have loved to see Harriet and Gigi make the cuts, but sadly they didn't, and I feel like it was due to votes. Production, I mean, of course, it's MGI. They gave us a show, prelims and finale. I appreciate that they allowed all girls showcase their dresses on the finale, whether or not they made the placement list, like they had in Miss Cosmos 2025. I think that was like a great reward for their efforts and their designers' efforts as well. Now let's talk about the organization's efforts on transparency. This has been such a huge topic in the pageant space for a while now, considering how we're seeing a lot of queens who, met and surpassed fan expectations and delivered objectively well, being sidelined for queens who objectively didn't do as well or weren't as consistent. So when MGI announced that they were going to be a lot more transparent for the All Stars competition, fingers were rightly crossed. Then they announced that the judges' scores were going to make up 70% and the voting was going to make up 30%. Of course, they were going to incentivize voting. It's MGI. They had multiple categories for the voting. They had World Challenge, they had Runway Challenge, and they had Portrait Challenge as well, winners of which were all fast tracked to top 18. They also mentioned and released test shots of a live display of the scoring. This quickly generated a lot of buzz, anticipation, and conversations. Some of those conversations are still ongoing even after the competition. There's an expectation that there might be a rise of live display of scores in more competitions just to perform transparency. There's a group that speaks to the unsightliness of attaching scores to delegates' beauty and appearance, how this can have lasting, dehumanizing, and degrading effects on the contestants and their self-esteem. On one hand, I hear it, which is why I feel like conversations need to be had on fairness and what is to be considered a reasonable lower limit rather than maximizing the lower limit. Like if we say the minimum score that can be given on an over 10 scale is 5, that's fair, or they could have used like a 1 to 5 scale instead. Because I'm not going to lie, it's weird when you give somebody a 1 or 2 over 10 while you give other people 6 to 10 for doing okay or doing very well. I get it. You look at some people in some competitions and you're asking, what are they doing here? Are they serious? Are they as prepared as some of the other delegates? Are they taking us for idiots? But hello, they were able to afford the license, they met the requirements, they made it down, and I feel like that should count for something. I also feel like when you register for a pageant, you have to understand that it's a competition. And competitions, in essence, at their core, always have delegates or contestants being compared against a standard, compared one to another. There's no escaping it. It's part of the process. So I feel like as part of the preparatory process, delegates need to come to an understanding of what they are getting into and then build healthy sportsmanship, have a good grasp on mental health and grounding practices so that they don't lose themselves in the competition no matter the outcome. There have also been conversations about bias in the judging, and I must say it's not shocking. It's inevitable. Bias is inevitable where humans are judging even to the best and the most objective of their abilities. There's no absoluteness to the kind of scores and the justification of the scores that are being given. And this brings me to my first issue with the grading process. In a clip I saw circulating on social media, I think it was Faith or Gazini who was walking. I caught a glimpse of the screen, the monitor that the judges were using to assign the scores. It looked like a calculator to me with digits 0 to 9, one button for applying a decimal point, another for logging the score in. Felt too much like a summary to me, and I feel like it leaves so much room for bias. If you're scoring a delegate for a performance in an evening gown competition, for example, grades on her dress, the fitting of it, the design of it, her control of it, her work, her camera work, her engagement of the audience and the judges, etc., coming together to determine her eventual score makes a lot more sense on fairness than simply assigning a grade based on how the performance made you feel. I also remember seeing a recommendation on social media about using an Olympic style computing where the lowest grades and the highest grades are dropped to ensure fairness. But I wonder how that's going to work for delegates who are able to secure multiple tens. Another bias booster, in my opinion, was a relative lack of diversity in the judging panel. Yes, I agree there was some effort on that front. We had African, Asian, and American representation, but I must mention that there was a lot more Asian and American, specifically Latin American representation. And I think the top 18 result speaks for itself as to why that is an issue. We had only one African and one European in that top 18. You can't make this up. These things count in their own way. I remember recently seeing a lineup of the Miss Cosmo 2025 judges and somebody trying to pass it off as a more diverse lineup of judges. Well, we still got what we got, so I think they still have some work to do on that reducing bias fee. Personally, I like that the publishing of the scores allowed people to hold the judges accountable for what they were doing to the contestants, hurting their chances, attacking their self-esteem, all on the bill of being objective and impartial and honest. Please, if for nothing else, the fact that every judge's bias was on full display and they could be held accountable, I like the publishing of scores for that. As a form of refinement, I recommend having the scoring be about things that the delegate can actually do something about. Oh, her dress, the fitting of the dress, the design, her delivery of it, her walk, etc. For the bare face, how bare is the face? How confident does she feel in her skin without makeup? Her delivery, her performance, etc. I feel like these things can humanize the scoring. Another valid option that we've seen be used is working with an independent auditing firm. I feel like even if that is the case, still break the scoring down to elements. Why is she getting a 2? Why is she getting a 9.4? It can't just be because you look at her and think, oh, that's what she deserves. That's weird. Omar, Osmel, and Lupita are names that have come up a lot, and it's not like some of the other judges did not have variation in the scores that they gave. But with these judges, it appeared that there was vendetta in the scores they gave, especially when it came to certain delegates. Post-show conversations have even revealed some of these biases and vendetta, with body shaming even coming up in the mix. And it's just weird because I feel like for somebody who doesn't have a firm enough grasp on emotional intelligence to know better than to say some things, might make questionable decisions as a judge. Just saying. And now the voting aspect. It's MGI. They were going to be about their coin one way or another. And I appreciate them for the transparency on, 30% P and the multiple voting categories, you know, providing winners that were going to be fast tracked into the top 18. No wahala. However, questions have come up as to how honest they were. Because voting lines going down during the voting lines going down while the competition was underway and them continuing the voting on site, thereby creating a skewing for delegates who were able to get more fans down to the hall. That's suspicious. A former MU Kenya, I think 2024, Irene Muki, cited valid concerns about the trustworthiness of the voting process. She mentioned that a blockchain based technology would have been tighter and impossible to manipulate, and that if the organization was as about transparency and about objectivity as they could have opted for that. Putting all this together, I think we can see that in pageantry we're in a new era where buzz counts. Your toolkit has to have the ability to generate conversations, impressions, coin. I'm just thankful that we were able to see that Faith was appreciated for the quality of delegates that she has proven to be twice in a row now. Congratulations to her. I would also like to recognize the organization's effort on inclusivity. Having a trans woman in their first ever top 3 for this competition is quite inclusive, if you ask me. And we might say that she bought her slots with votes. Well, I mean, that was an option that was available on the table for every of the delegates to have taken advantage of, and just happened to be her strength, and a valid one at that. Because I recently saw a clip of her welcome back to Vietnam, and that was a lot of people. All of a sudden, all those votes makes a lot of sense. Very valid, no argument there. There were other trans delegates from other countries as well. Fuchsia from the Philippines was my favorite. Very stylish, very grand personality, great performance skills. The first fashion show they had, I think she worked the camera really, really well. And that's my opinion on trans women competing in pageants with biological women. Pageants have a very narrow set of requirements, especially on the physical aspect. So I believe anybody who compares should be able to compete. And I know it's not that simple, but at least it's good that there is Miss International Queen on the side as well as a home space for them. The winner, Vanessa, it made a lot of sense because she was one of those who were consistently grand. The presence, the height, the look, the styling, it made sense that she won. Priscilla, Nicole, and Mariana were other delegates who I also saw on the preliminaries and immediately thought grand, and their scores showed that as well. Clearly, Vanessa did not satisfy the judges as much or as well on the performance aspect of things. Thankfully for her, the votes came through, and it's not even shocking for someone who has over 1 million followers on IG. Made a lot of sense that she was able to pull that number of votes. For her case, I think it's one of the few cases where I would say a natural edge, star power, if you will, can get you a lot further than performance. And I don't think we should be mad at that. Congratulations to her. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I do not take it for granted. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and comments. Leave them down below in the comments section. Also, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It ensures that you do not miss out on any of my future updates. Until next time, be safe.